How we doing, guys? Richie, the Jordan Patrick Show here. And I wanted to cover Super Wild Card weekend, which rolled into Monday yesterday. I kind of went on a little rant the other night, complaining and bitching about the officiating. So I'm going to leave that alone. And when I touch on those couple of games, I'm going to just give credit to the teams that won. I don't like complaining about officiating. Just not a good energy. I said what I had to say the other day. I'm going to start off with last evening's beatdown. Got to eat my words here a little bit with my co-host Jordan and with our frequent guest of the show, Brett. I talked a lot of smack about the Rams. While I still feel that they're a little overrated, I don't think they're going to meet their fate just yet. Well, they aren't going to meet their fate just yet because they beat the crap out of the Arizona Cardinals last night. But taking my personal opinions of the team off the table and just speaking on the game, got to give a lot of credit where it's due. The Rams defense was very fluid all game, really confusing Kyler Murray. And Kyler Murray looked his age yesterday in terms of no playoff experience. I thought early on the Arizona defense kept the game competitive. And Arizona does have some great playmakers on that side of the ball, but the Rams came in there looking like a team on a mission. They were running the ball really hard with the combination of Cam Akers and Sony Michel. Matthew Stafford was sharp. He made the throws. Cooper Kupp and Odell Beckham Jr. both had really good games. I want to highlight Odell on this. It was a big game for Odell in the sense that he's never won a playoff game. And it was his first time back to the playoffs since his very disappointing game back in early 2017 against the Green Bay Packers. And as many football fans remember, they associate that giant failure with the boat trip. But since leaving Cleveland, Odell has scored 6 touchdowns, and he looks very much the star that he was projected to be. I mean, in New York, he was putting up Hall of Fame numbers. This game was over before it really started, and it all started up front. Aaron Donald is unquestionably the best lineman in the NFL. And Von Miller, who I was kind of critical of, had a really good game. No DeAndre Hopkins really made life hard for the Arizona Cardinals. And I also believe from a coaching standpoint, Cliff Kingsbury didn't do his quarterback any favors. I feel that when you're playing an overly aggressive defense and you're on the road and it's your first playoff game, young quarterback. And I was texting my co-host Jordan yesterday constantly about this. I feel that you have to let the game come to him. Arizona has 2 really good running backs that I don't feel that they allowed in the game plan. Because I understand when you're down 3 scores, at that point you got to start chucking the ball, trying to make plays downfield. But I mean, even early on, I felt that Arizona didn't really go in with a true game plan, and they were very nervous. It kind of had the vibes of last year's Super Bowl when Patrick Mahomes was running for his life. That game was a little different, though. The Chiefs were missing everybody up front to protect Mahomes in that game. I think Arizona will use this experience to learn and grow from. They were having a really good season, and they were actually the last team in the NFL that was still undefeated before losing to Green Bay, but gradually just started having a whole lot of issues, being healthy. DeAndre Hopkins is a phenomenal talent, so losing him is not easy. And, the Rams in recent history have had more experience. So congrats to the Rams. I'm in the hole for a couple of bucks to my good friend Jordan. But it's okay. I mean, my birthday's coming up. He's probably going to take me out for some drinks, I would think, for my birthday. So it's kind of like, maybe paying for my own drinks. But note to self, do not bet with your co-host when you have a vendetta against a particular roster or a team, because more times than not, it's not going to work out. Moving along, Kansas City Chiefs, 1 game away from a 4th consecutive AFC title game. And they are the 2-time defending AFC champions, winning a Super Bowl 2 years ago, losing the Super Bowl last season. they had a phenomenal game. And to no one's surprise against a Pittsburgh Steelers team that was quite incomplete. Quarterback Ben Roethlisberger is way past his prime. And that was the final game of his career. But the Chiefs did a little bit of everything good. They were able to get yards pretty much however they wanted to. And from a defensive standpoint, while a lot of people use the Chiefs as a little bit of they kind of use some humor against them in terms of that they don't have a defense. I don't necessarily subscribe to that notion. I think the Chiefs have some playmakers, but obviously the offense is the dynamic part of that team, and they all shined. Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, and lesser-known names in that offense. The Chiefs are going to be a tough out for anyone moving forward, and based on experience, it's hard to go against them. But rolling it over to Big Ben and Big Ben's legacy. As I said, he's actually the story of the game, even in defeat, because NFL fans will no longer see him. Want to hit on a couple of stats regarding Big Ben, just to kind of paint a picture of his Hall of Fame resume. For one, he was drafted in the very famous 2004 draft class, along with Phillip Rivers and Eli Manning, who definitely will be joining Ben in the Hall of Fame. There will be some questions as to who deserves the first ballot nod. I think there are all argumentative cases for each quarterback. But just to throw a couple of stats at you, 64,088 yards passing. That's fifth all time in the NFL. 416 passing touchdowns. That is eighth all time in the NFL. And with his 2 Super Bowl victories, he's actually tied for fifth all time with the most Super Bowl victories. He's tied for fifth. And you got to look at some of the names that he's sharing this with. Bart Starr, quarterback of the first original 2 Super Bowls and the first great Green Bay quarterback. Roger Staubach, who in my opinion is still the greatest Cowboys quarterback of all time. Some people might argue Troy Aikman. I say Roger. Jim Plunkett, who in my opinion is probably the least talented on this list, but still had some moments with the Raiders. John Elway, arguably a top 5 quarterback all time. And wrapping up that list for the fifth all-time most Super Bowls, who he's tied with, the Manning brothers. Peyton, most NFL MVPs. And we all know Eli took down the Patriots twice and has pretty much every Giants record. There's only 4 guys that have won more than him. Tom Brady, 7 rings. We know about Tom. Tom's idol, Joe Montana, with 4. Terry Bradshaw with 4. Troy Aikman with 3. That's the numbers of Ben. And I feel that Ben is definitely making a case, or has made a case, to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Prior to Ben's arrival in Pittsburgh, they hadn't won a Super Bowl since the late 70s. He definitely reinvigorated that organization. A lot of people will criticize him in the sense that he never did win a Super Bowl with the most talent he was ever given, that being Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell in their primes when they were both top 5 at their respective positions, being receiver and running back. And Ben had trouble beating Tom Brady and the Patriots, but to be honest, most people had trouble beating Tom Brady and the Patriots. Ben had some off-the-field drama, some accusations, some things that had occurred. For better or for worse, the Pittsburgh Steelers definitely supported him. I think it says a lot about the organization and what they think of Ben as a person. And I also think that from a loyalty standpoint, they could have moved on from Ben probably 2 years ago. They chose not to. And anyone that knows Pittsburgh Steelers history knows that they stick with their guys for a long time. I mean, you look at the very short coaching list. Out of all NFL teams, they have the shortest coaching list, which means that they're successful and they really believe in the guys that lead the team. And Mike Tomlin, head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, even in an off year, got to give that man a ton of credit because he has never missed the playoffs. Moving forward, as far as Pittsburgh goes, they obviously are going to have a gaping hole at quarterback. There are definitely some names that'll be in the mix looking for new homes. Russell Wilson is for one. Aaron Rodgers, while he's chasing a Super Bowl, that's a 50-50. I don't know if he's coming back to Green Bay. Denver has been linked to him. I imagine the Raiders are going to get their hand in there. But I feel that Rodgers and Wilson are the two pieces, and every other piece follows after that. Of course, Deshaun Watson is a very intriguing name. Even the other PA team, the Philadelphia Eagles, with the amount of draft picks and draft capital they have going into this, might very well try to make a move on a Wilson or a Deshaun Watson. That remains to be seen. And speaking of the Eagles, they were the victims of a beatdown in Tampa. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, although missing some key players, looking every bit of what they were supposed to look like, beating an inferior team. And I have some thoughts on this. I had made mention of the new wild card and how I'm not a big fan of how essentially I feel like you're punishing the second best team in each conference, making them play in the first round, whereas the 7 seed gets rewarded. And in both conferences, I think you can make an honest case that both 7 seeds really didn't belong in the playoffs. That being, in this case, both PA teams. But they were there. The score looked a lot closer than the game was. Tampa was in control from the start, at one point up by 31 points. The Eagles didn't show really much resistance to Tampa's running game, and Brady was able to pick them apart. Brady's offensive line did a hell of a job. And while it was an easy win, it did come with a cost. Offensive lineman Tristan Wirfs is actually in a walking boot right now. Now, Tampa winning this game is going to be going against an extremely talented front 7 in the form of the LA Rams, who I previously mentioned. Tom Brady, I would have to look up this stat. I'm going off the top of my head. Has never lost 3 consecutive games to any team. Now, I know the Saints have swept him in 2 consecutive seasons, but he did beat them in between in a playoff game. To my knowledge, I don't believe Tom Brady has ever lost 3 consecutive games to anybody. But that's what would occur if he does lose to the Rams. They have had his number since the Super Bowl that he beat them in. They've had his number essentially since he's been in Tampa. Wirfs is a huge factor in this game. Tampa is going to need him. And according to head coach Bruce Arians, he believes that it's going to come down to the wire in terms of a game time decision. I want to see a good game. I also want the Rams to lose because I've made it very clear what I think about them. But definitely going to be quite the task if they don't have Tristan Wirfs. I'm calling this my divisional round pre-preview. Jordan and I are going to make our best efforts to get on together a little later today. So that's why I'm going to call it a pre-preview. Hoping to have some company later on when we go into this round and divulge more so into the games, but I'm going to give you a quick preview. So, first game, which is a Saturday, we've got the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Tennessee to take on the number 1 seeded Tennessee Titans. Just going to give a couple of quick factors. For the Tennessee Titans, it looks like the return of King Henry. Derrick Henry, who prior to injury has been the best back in the NFL for the better part of 2-3 years. Jonathan Taylor, of course, challenged that this year, especially getting more shine in Henry's absence with the Indianapolis Colts, a division rival. But, King Henry has the resume. And when returning from that kind of injury, there's really no guarantees of how he's going to play. I do think it's awfully tough to come in and having it be an elimination game. I also think the AFC, I don't think the records necessarily indicate who's better in that conference. My personal pick is that the Buffalo Bills likely win the conference, but it's hard to go against the Chiefs at the same time. As far as this game goes, Two huge factors. The offensive line of the Cincinnati Bengals has to step up to protect quarterback Joe Burrow. And as far as Tennessee goes, Ryan Tannehill is going to have to make some plays through the air. You look at the numbers, you look at the analytics of it. Burrow's supposed to have the advantage. Tennessee's at home. From a coaching standpoint, Mike Vrabel has a little more winning experience than his counterpart, but it's going to be a hell of a game. San Francisco 49ers. I divulged into my disdain and my disgust with the way that game was officiated. But I do not want to take any credit away from the 49ers. They went into Dallas, and they basically bullied the Dallas Cowboys for the majority of the game. Jimmy Garoppolo made a mistake, a throw that he shouldn't have made, which kept Dallas in the game. But to go on the road against a storied rival, they've been beating the crap out of each other since the 80s. But, against a storied rival, it says a lot about the makeup of your team. The Rams have a lot of flash in that division. Although Seattle's had an off year, they've been a winner of that division many, many times. And the Arizona Cardinals were the last team in the NFL that was undefeated this year. The Niners, although only 2 years removed from a Super Bowl, have kind of taken a blue-collar approach to how they do things. They're a run-first, run-heavy team. Jimmy Garoppolo is a smart quarterback that doesn't make a lot of mistakes, but not exactly the most dynamic. And the fact that the 49ers drafted another quarterback at that position, I think speaks volumes about their thoughts about Jimmy G's future. And whether I agree with that or not, that's what the organization has done. But 2 years removed from a Super Bowl, scrappy front seven, secondary's a little leaky. And the leaky secondary is going to be difficult going against, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the NFL in the form of Aaron Rodgers. The Green Bay Packers, it's kind of now or never for them. I mean, they are over a decade removed from their last Super Bowl. There is a lot of chatter about Rodgers moving on. Devontae Adams purposely didn't take out a new contract because he's kind of monitoring what Aaron Rodgers is doing, which leads me to believe that if Rodgers should leave, similar to Gronk and Brady, they will play together in a new place. That all remains to be seen, but Packers are the favorites, as they should be. All I'm going to say in regard to this game is the 49ers need to get up early. If they don't, I don't see them having the offensive firepower to play from behind. But I expect a really good football game. 49ers are really well coached. And it should be fun. LA Rams at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I had mentioned a little earlier today that Tom Brady, to my knowledge, I don't know if this is pure fact, has never lost 3 consecutive games to any team. The Rams are threatening to do that, and more importantly, the Rams are threatening to knock out the defending world champions and go into the NFC title game. It's going to be a great game. You got 2 excellent defenses. You have one quarterback that has done it all, and another quarterback in many people's minds that has not done enough. But, my co-host Jordan, my buddy Brett have both alluded to how Matt Stafford, these could be his moments for his legacy this year. And with the kind of star-studded super team that's surrounding him, the Rams are a factor. I'm not going to give my prediction on this just yet. All I'm going to say is Tristan Wirfs is so valuable to protect Tom Brady in this game. Tom Brady is not exactly Mr. Mobile. And both front sevens can cause a problem for anyone. On paper, the Rams are healthier. But Tom Brady has that intangible of just being the ultimate winner. So very hard to ever go against him in these kind of games. It's going to be a really fun game to watch. Last but not least, the Buffalo Bills are traveling to Kansas City. In my opinion, these are the 2 most high-powered offenses in the NFL. Last year, Kansas City ended Buffalo's season. It was the first AFC title game Buffalo has been in since the 94 season. Buffalo is on the fringe of being a Super Bowl champion, Super Bowl contender for sure this year. Kind of unseating the New England Patriots as the beast of the AFC East. The Patriots are uptrending, but that's Buffalo's division for the foreseeable future. And for years, they played second fiddle to the Patriots. And I know that winning that game against a team that has kept them down for so long, from a morale standpoint, has probably got to do a lot for them. Buffalo has never won a Super Bowl. And the Chiefs broke a generational hex a couple of years ago when they won. In my opinion, with the exception of Aaron Rodgers, the two best quarterbacks in the NFL. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, two most dynamic without a doubt. This is the kind of football game that it's like video game stuff where you just enjoy watching it. And if you're a fan of one of the teams, it's even more exciting. I'm not sure who's going to win this game, but I guess the team that has the ball last. I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully Jordan and I will be on a little later to divulge more into these games. But, I've been doing this Monday morning quarterback thing all season. In this rarity, it's actually a Tuesday morning quarterback because of the unprecedented Monday night game in the playoffs, something that has never happened before, or at least not in my lifetime. Hope you all have a great day. As always, it's a pleasure to do this, having a great time doing it. So enjoy your day, everybody, and enjoy the remainder of the playoffs. We'll be back later.